Hello and welcome to In the Spotlight with Quocirca, the definitive podcast on digital disruption in the print industry. I'm Louella Fernandes, Director of Quocirca, and today I'm joined by Jean-Francois CEO of Celiveo. Today we'll be discussing the future of cloud printing and hearing more about Celiveo's products and services in the market. So welcome to the show today, Jean-Francois.
Thank you, Louella.
So just to introduce you to the audience, could you tell us a bit about yourself and your role at Celiveo?
So I'm a Celiveo CEO. I'm president, and my role is really to speak with our large clients, also to printer vendors and with channel partners to understand their needs, to see how we could meet those needs, of course, but also have a vision on where the market is going, to try to make a summary of all those various requirements that we hear from there and there.
And for those who are not familiar with the company, could you tell us a bit more about the company as well?
Yeah, Celiveo is a global company. We are developing a pure cloud on document management based technically on Azure. And our goal is really to set up a solution to process output management, which is as easy to use as video conferencing that we're using today, without using any on-site PC or server. Something that's as easy that anybody could use it without creating any cost locally for those large companies that we're equipping.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. So we'll find out a bit more about your product in the course of the conversation. But I think just to set the context, could you tell us a bit about your thoughts on the cloud printing market and what's really changing specifically in enterprise requirements and that you're seeing in terms of your customer needs?
So our customers have less and less time, more and more sites. The budget is shrinking for IT, and they have also less and less staff to handle that IT. So they're really looking forward having a standard solution which is out of their IT. Printing is sometimes a pain for them. They need printing because they process a ton of documents, and it's a growing, I would say, data. And what they would like to see is printing being handled like IP phones. IP phones is fairly easy. You just plug a phone on your network. The phone speaks to a cloud server, and it works, period. And you get a bill every month. And when we speak to our clients, they express they would like to see something as secure and as easy as IP phone. And what's interesting is that if you look at the history of phone systems, company started with a PBX, which is a big beast inside the companies. Then they moved to IPBX, still a big beast, a bit smaller, but with phones connected to the network. And today, there is no more beast, just the phones purchased online, a kind of a commodity, plugged to the network on the VLAN, so very secure, no connection to the servers, to the local IT systems. And anybody can make a phone, and they can even take the phone out of the office, go home, plug it to the network, and it works. So they can also follow the user at their home. So when we speak to clients, say, phones have such an evolution, we would like to see the same thing with printing. So printing is to be able to follow the user to his home, to a co-shared office space. And also, in the office, we should be able to handle it separately from our IT. And cloud has been labeled on many products, but when you look closely, it's not really cloud. It's more a cloud label on a non-cloud product. And so we have been trying to explain to clients, yes, there is a way to do it. Of course, you need to take the right printers. Some printers will never be able to do that. Printers need to be able to speak to the cloud. They need to be secure enough. And then, yes, that's possible. But clients, say, I don't want to take care of that anymore. I want somebody to handle it. I do want to be able to configure, to be in control of it, but it has to be out of my assets.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting, that analogy you made with sort of IP phones and I guess the telecoms industry. It's following a very similar trajectory, sort of going from, the products are very commoditized. And the opportunity, I guess, is around the value of the solutions and services around it. And I'm just curious because we are seeing that print is very much a utility now. So what we're seeing in the market, from Quocirca's perspective, is that cloud printing has become quite a fragmented market. And as you mentioned, there are some products which say they're cloud, but they're not true cloud platforms. And I think it's creating some complexity for customers to really understand what is a true cloud print platform. So could you maybe tell us a bit about your views around cloud printing and, perhaps how Celiveo is addressing some of those challenges that customers are seeing in the market?
Well, you will have clients who are very happy to have just one brand. And as we know, as you say, it's very fragmented. It's also kind of a Babel tower. Today, some solutions will only work on the brand which is pushing that solution. It's a silo, and you cannot get out of the silo. Some clients are very happy with it. It's a peace of mind, just one contact company. Some want to separate it from the hardware, to say, no, it's like, again, IP phones. If you go back 20 years ago, you had 6, 7 brands who had the market. None of them exist today anymore. And instead, you see some new companies that didn't exist before who have been working on the service and on the IP, the cloud phone systems. And those have caught the market. And the market now is for them to provide a quick service, high security, very important, security, ease of use on a monthly bill. And for that today, it will mean that those companies don't care much about the equipment. They don't want to sell the equipment, they want to sell the service. And a standard has been created for IP phones. It's called SIP, SIP. On SIP phones can be purchased anywhere. You have some very high quality, you have some lower quality products, of course, but the high quality are perfect, and they work with any cloud IP communication provider. So our feeling is that you will have some vendors that will continue to provide some very high quality service as an only one solution, service on the hardware. And you also have next to it a market probably pushed by channel partners, or maybe by some printer vendors, who knows, who are going to focus on the service, because we all know that printing is not really a growing market. So there will have to be some consolidation. And if companies want to exist in 10 years, 15 years from now, they will have to shift a bit on the service side and not be centered around their own hardware. And we see that already with like Ricoh. Ricoh has split the service company from the hardware company to grow probably the service company beyond their own base of clients. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very interesting. Some of the vendors will follow that trend. And we are very excited to be working already with many of them who say, we want to partner with companies who provide a great solution. And if they know very well our printers, which are the best, then, of course, clients will be happy and they will have the best service and the best hardware. And that's really the kind of collaboration we also try to work with. But clients, they only want to see one solution and they don't want to have to choose the hardware based on the solution is too complex for them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think what we see in our research is that the IT decision makers and the customers aren't really as, like you say, concerned about the actual hardware brands. There's very little now to differentiate between the different manufacturers' brands, but it's actually the differentiation is around the software and the services. And I just wanted to pick up on that point you made around security, because I'm interested in your views around cloud and security, because in the past, there's been some reluctance to move to the cloud because of the perceived risks around cloud infrastructure. But I think a lot of that has been overcome because now the big public cloud providers have got very strong security credentials. Could you maybe share your views on cloud and security and how Celiveo are addressing that?
You're totally right when saying that many companies were afraid of the cloud because you open a kind of a wall until, I would say, during COVID, when they realized the wall was not closed. And many companies could get into the wall. And we see many companies today who say, it's maybe we're safer under the security umbrella of a big cloud player, whether it's Microsoft, Google, AWS, who have an army of engineers fighting day and night, armies of hackers, instead of having maybe 5, 10 security experts in the company who will try to fight the same thousands of hackers day and night. So the paradigm has shifted. Again, it's the same thing. It's a lack of resources in the company, cost control. So the cloud is becoming, the security is becoming a commodity in a way. It's difficult to live, I would say, alone in that hostile world. You have to be protected by somebody, like an army of engineers. So that's about the cloud. It's opening. Then the offers, we see a lot of like output management solutions that claim to be secure because they have an ISO 27001 certification. And I think there is a bit of a misunderstanding because ISO certification typically is about the company. It's a 1 year, it's a certification for 1 year that is made one day. And the next day, everything is different. You have new viruses, you have new attacks, you have the procedure may have changed the company, people move. So I think that ISO 27001 is not really a goal. It's just one of the many requirements. What is critical is what is called the peer reviews for cloud, where your solution is permanently attacked with white hat hackers who are going to verify that you are really secure. And for that, you have a lot of regulation and norms, which are good, like a SOC 2, like a C-Star, just to name two of them. You also have some country-specific norms. And we think that many companies should follow those norms to make cloud solutions credible and safe. And companies who really want to go cloud, the best advice I could give is to say, okay, I want at any time of the year, any day, any hour, I want to be able to have a same-day report for all the vulnerabilities and all the norms that I have to follow. Then you know that yesterday you were secure, today you are safe, and tomorrow you will be protected. That's really the way to go for cloud. And it's very important because when you see that, like Snowden case, you heard about NSA. NSA has a huge budget by billions. And an insider was allowed to go away with 1.7 million documents on a USB key that cost maybe $2. It shows there is a need for true security, and that security is also an insider matter as well as an external hacker matter. So security is really a global issue, and companies need really to look at what's available on the market in terms of norms and to ask for a daily verification.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think that, there's so many security certifications. And as you say, cloud now is accepted as being secure. And I think it's really important that, customers really understand or evaluate their cloud solutions providers to really understand what the security certifications and compliance that's being offered is actually available. But I just wanted to ask you also, because we're talking about cloud printing, but we discussed earlier around, printing volumes are starting to decline, or that they're fairly flat and unlikely to return to pre-COVID levels. On the flip side, we're seeing more organizations moving to document capture and scanning. So I wanted to just discuss a bit about the opportunity around scanning in terms of how Celiveo are looking at the complete document lifecycle, I guess, and how you're sort of supporting your customers who actually want to manage both printing and scanning in the cloud.
Yeah, Louella, we do see a shift from printing to scanning, absolutely. Clients who have had a lot of printers, they kind of shrink a bit their fleet, and they go more with MFPs, A4 as like A3, both. Why? Because they want to be able to acquire documents quickly. And that's important because with AI, which is coming, many companies want to leverage from those future tools. They are not already yet, but it's improving, I would say. And so that they can shorten the processing time for important documents. So we all know about the workflow business. It's a great business. There is still a lot of manual processing, a lot of exceptions or unreadable documents. And that's typically where the AI will be able to bring, I would say, some added value for large companies. Again, we're looking more, our company is more focused on large companies between 1,000 and 200,000 employees. SMB maybe do it faster and cheaper to do manual processing. But for those large companies, enterprise companies, it's a given that to be able to process hundreds of documents automatically will save them a ton of money. So that's where they want to save money. And the printer is becoming like a kiosk where anybody could go and process some documents to be stored, to be analyzed, to be archived. There is a lot, well, the legacy business for archiving and processing was more about the invoices. In Europe, there will be, as you may know, a mandatory electronic invoice in the next years, which means that we believe that part of the market will shrink. It will be the electronic invoice, replaced by automatic invoicing through IT, but paper invoice will disappear. And we think that it's going to be replaced quickly by anything from resume that you receive to process automatically for HR, for example. That's an example which is, we have a lot of feedback on that. Companies receiving a ton of CVs and they would like to sort automatically the CVs to propose it to the right people in the organizations, to also offers any kind of document that the company processes on a daily basis. That's really what we see. So it's not the same as yesterday, much less invoices, less POs, but much more live documents that will have a short or long life. And they want to be able to keep them, to automatically delete them using AI.
Yes, and I think that's, going back to that point we were talking about, the opportunity for sort of value from these investments and these kind of solutions. I think AI can really help hardware vendors differentiate their offerings through sort of AI-powered scan and document capture. Do you see any of the cloud vendors? I think, Azure may offer some document analysis in this way. Are you seeing any opportunities to actually integrate with the actual cloud platforms that are offering AI capabilities around data extraction already?
Oh, absolutely. And just to give one of many examples, you have Azure. Microsoft Azure is amazing. It's a kind of a toolbox. And they have a lot of sophisticated document management. They can do OCR, they can do even manual writing, reading. And so there is a lot of process you can leverage from without to reinvent the wheel. So it's really like a Lego box. So you can build a very sophisticated solution. Yeah, there is also protection to avoid that document to get compromised. You can also verify compliance of information, and that's available for both printing documents and as well as scanning documents, so that you don't scan documents which are forbidden or carry information that could put the company at risk. So absolutely. So the cloud is not a VM. So any solution which is a VM in the cloud is not a cloud solution, to put it differently. We are not in a VM. We use a native cloud architecture, totally elastic. And that way we can interface with any API from vendors, whether it's Google, whether it's AWS or Microsoft Azure, to bring added value. A solution which is moved, put in a VM, and the VM moved to the cloud is not a cloud solution because it's totally standalone. It's also at risk due to operating system updates, vulnerabilities. One of the questions that companies need to ask is, okay, are you a true native cloud solution, elastic, with no OS-less cloud solution, or are you in a VM in the cloud? Because it's not only about security, also because of extendability, to know if next month, next year, some hooks with innovations from cloud vendors can be easily integrated into the input and output management solution.
I think, that the point you actually made around AI is really interesting, because I think, and also the fact that Microsoft Azure has quite sophisticated capabilities, really plays to the point of the need for the industry to become more collaborative and open with these hyperscale providers, because at the moment the industry is quite proprietary. And, I think this is going to be, I guess it's still early days in terms of AI being applied in this way in the print industry, but it'd be interesting to see if any other partnerships open up as they move more to the cloud in general. But I think that was really interesting, because it sounds like it really does open up a lot of possibilities around smart workflow and actually optimizing some of those document-based processes.
And I think it's going to be interesting also in terms of where you can do that. Today, you do that from the company. A lot of companies have been paying a lot to get some workflow solutions from the on-premise, and then COVID hit. And none of those workflows were usable because nobody was in the office. and the companies had to continue to work. And what they want today is, okay, my process, my workflows have to be independent from where the user is. It can be at home, it can be maybe in a train, waiting for a plane, and it doesn't have to be linked to our physical office location. And which is interesting in terms of security, in terms of equipment it supports. Smartphones, of course, will be very important in the future. And like be able to improve, to take a photo from a smartphone, improve it, or make it usable in the cloud in terms of analyzing. So it's a totally different way to process information, to shorten time, to make it easier for the end user.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of opportunities open up there. So we touched a bit about on the Celiveo platform. So maybe if we could move on to sort of understand a bit more about the platform, what are the key differentiators and what your strategy is for the coming year?
Yeah, so what differentiates us is that we have developed a true cloud solution, which is, again, not in a VM, not a VM to the cloud. And instead of adding cloud to a solution, we developed it from scratch during COVID. We had a bit of time to do that. And we have made the foundation. The foundation was the zero trust access security. And a lot of people have misunderstanding about zero trust, mixed up with TLS. TLS is not zero trust. It's really a foundation. You cannot add zero trust to a product. You have to build a product on a zero trust foundation. So on zero trust means that you can't trust anybody, and you don't even share one bit of data before you are sure what the other party is doing and who it is. And that's what we have been doing. And we have a really cool technology, which is state of the art, and mimicking what the payment systems are using to process your credit card. So very safe. When you go to a shop, you know it's a true terminal, not a fake one. And your card also will be verified. So we have been working a lot on security because, as you said earlier, many companies were afraid and are still afraid of going cloud. So you need to prove that if you do go cloud for input and output management, you are going to be more secure than before. So that's security is number one. After also the full cloud. Full cloud also means that you don't need to install anything locally to use a solution. You just plug the printer to the wall. You connect with your laptop or PC to a web portal to configure your system, and it's up and running. Exactly like for an IP phone system. So light, but very powerful. And for that, we use intelligence inside the printer. And our company has been developing firmware for printers since 1984. That's our background. So we are very comfortable with embedded technology, and we don't need to have any PC gateway or creative name for what is just a middleware somewhere on the local network. No, we don't need that. We just need a network connection, a smart printer, and our cloud solution in Azure today. But we can also work with non-Azure clients. So clients don't need to open any Azure account. And we work on the global document lifecycle. And today we are mostly on the output management. But yes, of course, scanning to OneDrive or SharePoint is key. On there, I think it's even more important for clients in terms of security, because if you scan to SharePoint or to OneDrive, a good question is, okay, I put my credentials on the printer, which means the printer can access every single document I have in the cloud. And so how can I make sure that my credentials will not end up somewhere? It's a very good question. And we see some solutions which are not peer-to-peer, but they go through a third-party server, which is doing the connection, which is crazy. So, I mean, it means that you give the key to somebody to read and write your files, and that would apply even to the CFO, to the CEO of a company. So security for scanning is even more critical than security for printing, again, because you have access to all the documents, the budgets, the financial statements of a company, the letters, contracts that any employee of a company keeps in his cloud drive. So we try to make it easier, but safety is our number one requirement. And of course, we are working with the Microsoft tools. We are a Gold Microsoft partner for AI. And because we need to work with leaders. And as you know, they are one of the leaders in AI. And there are some cool technologies coming up. And that also apply to documents. As I told you, they can do handwriting recognition. Of course, printed documents recognition. And there will be a lot of cool features. And the good thing with cloud is that you can bring a new feature every 2 weeks. So you don't have to change anything in your company. So really a cloud, and the benefit of the cloud is also to have a product that evolves and catch up with the latest technology and features that clients want. That's what we're doing every day for large companies in the US, Europe, and Asia Pacific.
Yeah, and I think that's so true with cloud. It really helps organizations innovate a lot faster because they can add these new capabilities, and also from the software development perspective. And also your point around zero trust, the term being misused in the industry. I totally agree. I think there's been what we call, zero trust washing, and that, everything is zero trust. But actually you really need to make sure, as you say, it's not just something that's added on, it's actually built with zero trust in mind. So it sounds like a really interesting platform in terms of the native cloud architecture, and as particularly your plans around AI found, very differentiated in the market. And so you mentioned you focus on particularly enterprise customers. Can you maybe give some examples of types of customers you're working with, and maybe an example of the customer journey and why they selected Celiveo? What was their initial infrastructure set up with, and where are they going in terms of cloud?
Yeah, for example, we have a global bank, and in a bank you have regulation which is per country, a lot of regulation regarding what information you can produce or store, and how long it has to be stored, for example. You also have a regulation on the automatic archiving, like in Taiwan. You must archive every single document when you're a bank or insurance company, so for 10 years. But then you must make sure at the same time that nobody unauthorized can access it. So you have a double requirement here. And our solution was able to put some automatic rules for documents, for processing, for printing, to make sure that only authorized people can access specific printers. Or we also support PKI smart cards for banks. For data encryption, we can encrypt documents with the smart cards or with the YubiKeys. So a lot of advanced technologies. And for the cloud, we have a company it's a global company in media communication. And they're not interested in IT. They just want to manage their business. And they have two person in charge of printers for a global requirement that is growing every day, more and more data to process, and a lot of scaling. And they say, no, that's over. And we don't want anything. We don't even want to install any pilot, driver, or client module on a PC, on Mac, which is kind of interesting. So that's where we have been working with Microsoft Universal Print. And we have been one of the early beta testers of that great technology. And it's really cool because it's Microsoft Universal Print. You don't need to deploy any client. You just plug your Windows PC to internet, you connect to domain, and then you can access print queues that are created directly from Celiveo in the cloud. No need to go to the Azure portal. It's a one-stop shop. And Microsoft handles everything on the PC. So client told us, no, the time it takes us to install drivers, to maintain print queues is way too much. So we just want to use it. We don't want to deploy, update. It has to be done together with Microsoft updates and the macOS updates. So we are there. It's live, and Microsoft has already announced last month the release for Mac support. And that's really, again, I go back to my IP phone system. I just plug a phone to the wall. I pick up the handset or my Bluetooth, and I call somebody, period. And I don't want to install, maintain, and handle defects and so on. So it's really where typically we have been winning clients is by showing that we can be that simple. And instead of reinventing the wheel, we just work with leaders printer vendors, Microsoft, Google, because we also support a Chromebook Enterprise, which is also a very simple, no problem, single point of maintenance system. And to help them simplify, and most important, secure.
Yeah, that's good. So we'll provide a link to your website. So for anybody who wants more information about the Celiveo platform, they can find it there. But it's been really interesting finding out a bit more about your company and the products. And I just wanted to really end with getting your views on, well, you've explained a bit what's next for Celiveo, but do you have any views on what's next in terms of opportunities and challenges for the industry?
If you look at the PC industry and you compare it with the printer industry, 20 years ago, there were 25, 30 players. Today, we have a handful of players. If we look at the printing industry, there has not been so many consolidation. So we just wonder how the consolidation will happen, because there is no shrinking market where there is no consolidation. So it will be interesting, especially as every vendor is having his own standard in terms of technology and APIs. So there is no standard. So consolidation will be much more difficult than for the PC industry. And some clients, of course, will be caught into that situation. Of course, the printer vendors will do their best to mitigate the impact. But that's something that the clients will have to look for, especially if they have a solution which is specifically for one brand. And so that's what we are monitoring today. And then, of course, the security. Security is a daily monitoring, it's a daily concern for clients. And how printer vendors will be able to handle the scan to SharePoint, scan to OneDrive, where they cannot put their own ecosystem between Microsoft and the printer of the client without exposing the tokens and the security credentials of the clients. We're working a lot with printer vendors, with channel partners, but there will be a lot of cool solutions coming for input and output management in the cloud. But we are very interesting to see what will be the approach taken by the industry to give credibility to that requirement from clients for security and multi-vendor.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the standardization in the industry is really needed. And I think it's a real challenge for organizations who are trying to operate a multi-vendor fleet, not to have sort of vendor lock-in if they go towards a standardized fleet, but also being able to integrate a multi-vendor fleet and have a consistent user experience, I guess, across that device fleet. So yeah, it's been great to have you here. I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today, and look forward to hearing more about Celiveo in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Louella. Have a great day.
So thank you for joining today's episode of In the Spotlight with Quocirca. For more information, please go to quocirca.com and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.